Success without love is just expensive emptiness. This is the heartbreaking story of Chinedu, a village boy with big dreams, who left home to chase success and forgot the one person who loved him most. From the dusty streets of Ogbomosho to the high-rise offices of Lagos, this emotional African tale will grip your heart, bring tears to your eyes, and remind you of what truly matters in life. In the dusty village of Ogbomosho, where the red earth clung to everything like desperate prayers, 15-year-old Chinedu Okofor sat under the ancient Iroko tree, sketching buildings that touched the clouds. His mother, Mama Aduni, watched him from their small compound, her heart heavy with the knowledge that comes to mothers who love too much. "Nami, come and eat," she called, her voice carrying the weight of a woman who had buried her husband and raised her son with nothing but groundnut oil and endless prayers. Chinedu looked up from his drawings, his eyes blazing with the kind of fire that burns everything it touches. At 15, he was already taller than most men in the village, his shoulders broad with the promise of strength, his mind sharp like a cutlass freshly sharpened. "Mama, I'm not hungry," he said, his voice carrying an edge that made Mama Aduni's heart skip like a stone on water. "I'm planning my future." The village children ran past them, chasing a football made of old newspapers and rubber bands, their laughter echoing off the mud walls like music from another world. Once, Chinedu had been one of them. Once, this village had been enough. But dreams have a way of growing like weeds, fast, wild, and choking out everything else. "My son," Mama Aduni said, settling beside him on the wooden bench her late husband had carved with his own hands. "Your father used to say that a tree that forgets its roots will wither and die," Chinedu finished impatiently. "Mama, you tell me this story every day, but Papa is dead, and his stories won't build us a better house or put meat in our soup." The words hit Mama Aduni like cold harmattan wind. She looked at her son, this boy she had carried for 9 months, had nursed through malaria and measles, had sold her gold jewelry to send to secondary school, and saw a stranger growing behind his familiar eyes. "Success is good, Nami," she whispered, her callous hand smoothing his school uniform that he had washed and ironed until it looked almost new. "But success without love is like food without salt. It fills the stomach but leaves the soul hungry." Chinedu folded his drawings carefully, each crease deliberate and sharp. In his mind, he could already see himself in Lagos, wearing fine clothes, driving big cars, living in houses that made their compound look like a chicken coop. "When I become a big man, Mama, I will build you a fine house with running water and electric light that never goes off. You will be proud of your son." As the sun set behind the village church, painting the sky the color of dried blood, neither mother nor son knew that this promise would become a chain that would drag them both into darkness. 5 years passed like seasons of rain and drought. Chinedu graduated from secondary school with marks so brilliant that the village talked of nothing else for weeks. His mathematics teacher, Mr. Adebayo, pulled Mama Aduni aside after the graduation ceremony. "Your son has a gift," the old man said, his glasses catching the afternoon light. "With the right training, he could become an engineer, an architect, anything he wants." That night, Mama Aduni sat counting the money she had been saving grain by grain, naira by naira in an old milk tin buried under her bed. 2 years of skipping meals, of mending clothes instead of buying new ones, of walking long distances to save transport money, all for this moment. Chinedu called, her voice trembling with hope and fear. "Come, let me show you something." The coins and wrinkled notes spread across their small table looked like a prayer answered. Chinedu's eyes widened as he counted. enough for university admission forms, enough for the first semester, enough to chase the dream that had been burning in his chest like a coal fire. "Mama, how did you?" Mama Aduni said simply, but her smile was brighter than the kerosene lamp that flickered between them. "You will go to University of Lagos. You will study engineering. You will become the big man you want to be." 3 months later, Chinedu stood at the motor park in Ogomosho, his few belongings packed in a black nylon bag that had seen better decades. The bus to Lagos wheezed and belched black smoke like an old man clearing his throat. Mama Aduni pressed a small route package into his hands, her last piece of gold jewelry, a thin chain her own mother had given her on her wedding day. "If things become difficult," she whispered, her eyes bright with unshed tears, "you can sell this, but promise me, Nami, promise me you will not forget your mother. Promise me you will call. Promise me you will come home." The bus conductor was shouting, "Lagos, Lagos, who dey go Lagos?" Chinedu hugged his mother, breathing in the familiar smell of palm kernel oil and native soap that had been his comfort for 20 years. For a moment, just the moment, he wanted to stay, to remain the boy who drew pictures under the Iroko tree. "I promise, Mama, I will make you proud." As the bus pulled away, Chinedu watched through the dirty window as his mother became smaller and smaller until she disappeared entirely, like a dream fading in daylight. He pressed his face against the glass and made a silent vow. He would conquer Lagos, he would become rich, and then he would return home as a king. Lagos hit him like a slap from a giant's hand. The noise was a living thing. Car horns, engineers' engines, street hawkers screaming their wares, the constant hum of millions of people chasing the same dream he carried in his chest. The smell was overwhelming. Exhaust fumes mixed with frying plantain, open gutters, perfume, sweat, and something else he couldn't name. The scent of desperation and ambition cooking together in the heat. His cousin Tunde met him at Ojota Motor Park, grinning like someone who had won a lottery he hadn't entered. "Welcome to Lagos, my guy," Tunde laughed, slapping Chinedu's back. "Here, if you no get liver, na here you go grow am." That first night in Lagos, sleeping on his cousin's floor in a face me you face me building in Mushin, Chinedu had no idea that the city would teach him lessons his mother never warned him about. Lessons that would cost him everything he thought he wanted to protect. University of Lagos was a world within a world, and Chinedu threw himself into it like a man diving into deep water. He studied until his eyes burned, worked part-time jobs that paid in coins and exhaustion, and slowly, grain by grain, began building the foundation of his dreams. His first year, he called Mama Aduni every Sunday from the phone booth near his hostel. Her voice would crackle through the static like distant thunder, filled with questions about his studies, his health, his happiness. "Are you eating well, Nami? Are you warm enough? Have you made good friends?" "Yes, Mama, I'm fine. Everything is fine." But fine was becoming relative. Fine was sleeping 4 to a room. Fine was eating bread and groundnut for dinner. Fine was wearing the same 3 shirts in rotation while pretending he chose to dress simply. Second year brought opportunities. Chinedu's brilliant mind caught the attention of Professor Adeyavi, who offered him research assistant work that paid better than his previous jobs. Third year brought connections. Rich students who spoke of their father's businesses, who wore watches that cost more than Mama Adoni's annual income, who lived in worlds Chinedu had only imagined. "Guy, you are too brilliant to be managing like this," his friend Kemi told him one afternoon as they shared expensive coffee in a cafe near campus. "My father's construction company needs someone like you, smart, hungry, ready to work." The job came with a salary that made Chinedu's hands shake when he saw the offer letter. More money in 1 month than his mother saw in 6. He moved out of the crowded hostel into a small apartment in Surulere, bought his first laptop, his first good shoes, his first taste of what success feels like when it slides down your throat like honey. "Mama, I got a job," he told her that Sunday, standing in his new apartment, looking out of Lagos, spreading like concrete jungle in all directions. "Chukwumelu, God is good." Mama Aduni's joy traveled through the phone lines like electricity. "My prayers have been answered. Tell me everything, Nami." But as months passed, the Sunday calls became Sunday interruptions. Then every other Sunday. Then monthly check-ins that felt more like obligations than conversations. "Mama, I'm very busy. Can I call you back?" "Nami, I just wanted to hear your voice." "I know, Mama, but I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later." Later became next week. Next week became next month. The gap between calls grew like a crack in a wall. Small at first, then wide enough for silence to move in and make itself comfortable. Fourth year, Chinedu graduated with first class honors and a job offer from one of Lagos' biggest construction firms. The salary was more money than his entire village saw in a year. He moved to a bigger apartment in Victoria Island, bought his first car, a used Honda that felt like a Rolls Royce, and began building the life he had sketched under the Iroko tree. But success is a jealous lover. It demands everything: your time, your energy, your attention, and slowly, gradually, your soul. When Mama Aduni's letters began arriving at his new address, forwarded by his old landlord, Chinedu would glance at the familiar handwriting and set them aside. "I'll read them tonight," he would tell himself. "After this project, after this meeting, after I finish becoming the man I'm supposed to be." What Chinedu didn't know was that in those unread letters, his mother was chronicling not just village news and family updates, but the slow, steady breaking of a heart that had given everything for a dream that was becoming a nightmare.
"My dear son, Chinedu, I hope this letter meets you in perfect health and divine favor." The letters came like faithful servants, month after month, year after year, written on cheap paper in Mama Aduni's careful handwriting. Each one a love song from a mother's heart to a son who had become too important to listen. Chinedu's apartment in Victoria Island now had marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows. His wardrobe was full of suits that cost more than most people's cars. His business cards read Senior Project Manager in gold lettering that caught the light like captured sunlight. But the letters piled up in his study like accusation documents in a case he refused to face. Success in Lagos had its own smell. Leather seats in air-conditioned offices, imported cologne, the metallic scent of fresh money-counting machines. It had its own taste: expensive wine at business dinners, foreign cuisine that needed translation, the bitter aftertaste of conversations where every word was calculated for profit. And it had its own sound: the soft hum of central air conditioning, the purr of German engines, the silence of phones that only rang with opportunities worth millions. And in that silence, Mama Aduni's voice had been slowly disappearing. "Bros Chinedu," his colleague Emeka called out as they left another successful contract negotiation. "See as you don't blow, you don't forget your village people finish." They were standing outside a 5-star hotel in Ikoyi, waiting for their cars. Around them, Lagos's elite moved like sharks in expensive suits, closing deals that could buy and sell entire communities. "Abeg, I never forget anybody," Chinedu replied. But even as he said it, he couldn't remember the last time he had thought about home without feeling like it was a weight around his neck. "So when last you call your mama?" Emeka asked, lighting a cigarette that cost more than a day's wages for most Nigerians. The question hit Chinedu like cold water on hot skin. When was the last time? 3 months? 6 months? The realization crept up his spine like a cold finger. "He dey alright," he mumbled, but the lie tasted like ash in his mouth. That night, alone in his apartment that was bigger than his childhood compound, Chinedu stared at the pile of unopened letters. The latest one was dated 2 weeks ago. The envelope slightly yellowed from the journey from Obomosho to Lagos. His hands trembled as he reached for it, then stopped. What if she was asking for money again? What if she wanted him to come home for some village ceremony that would interrupt his carefully planned schedule? What if she couldn't understand that he was building something bigger than family traditions and small-town expectations? His phone buzzed, a message from his client about tomorrow's multi-billion naira project launch. The opportunity of a lifetime. The kind of success that would put his name in newspapers and his face on billboards. He pushed the letters aside and focused on business. But that night, he dreamt of his mother. In the dream, she was calling his name across a vast distance, her voice echoing like wind through empty houses. He could see her standing in their old compound, growing smaller and smaller until she was just a dot on the horizon of his ambition. He woke up with tears on his face and the taste of regret in his mouth. The next morning brought a phone call that would shatter his carefully constructed world into 1,000 pieces. A call that would teach him that some distances can never be crossed and some silences can never be filled with apologies. If this story is gripping your heart the way it's gripping mine, please hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been so focused on success that you almost lost what mattered most? Your support keeps these powerful stories coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please watch the continuation of the story in our next video.